So today was one of the most difficult days to be trading far out of the money 0 date options, but we did end up going 3 for 3, a 100% success rate, and G-Roar ended up calling out a multiple 100% profit return on SPX calls timed near perfect. I'm going to be going over the trades that we ended up making on call options. We absolutely crushed it on the day. It did take some time for the calls to print as the market was extremely stagnant, choppy, and literally whenever the market would go up, it would just come right back down and then spike right back up. But overall, there was a massive move during power hour, and we held these calls, did not get stopped out because we don't use stop losses. And both of the calls that we bought went up multiple 100% profit returns. I bought call options first, ended up selling for a small win. Those went up multiple 100%. And then G Roar ended up buying SPX calls later on into the day after I bought my SPY calls, and those went up multiple 100%, and those were sold for a multiple 100% win. So I'm going to be breaking down the trades towards the end. First things first, we're going to get into how to trade the best setups at the best prices. So we are setting up for a fairly predictable, lucrative trading opportunity heading into tomorrow. It should be a lot better. In terms of the game plan, today's game plan should be a lot better. In terms of overall price action for trading on Tuesday here compared to Monday, price action should pick up a little bit, and there should be a good opportunity. And going to be getting into that. So, in terms of the daily chart, these are the main core patterns, man. I'm seeing multiple patterns, man. I'm seeing multiple patterns on this. Tomorrow is really going to be a very important day to focus more on how SPY is reacting and what is confirmed at the levels rather than the most likely outcome, right? So one thing I will say is in terms of, the overall week, SPY is going to attempt to fill this gap, later into the week. It's going to take some time, but it is going to try to drop back down to fill the gap at 677.55, which is currently one of the best levels to be buying call options. That's where I would prefer to be buying call options. Now, in terms of the daily chart and what it's signaling multiple outcomes. So like I said, you're really going to have to use the levels in this video as more of a price ladder, but just understand in terms of most likely outcome. Not saying tomorrow, but later into this week, it is expected to drop back down a little bit to get back some gains and to start fill the gap below, right? So just keep that in mind. When you're buying these call options, and one thing to keep in mind in terms of these calls, if this just keeps on going up or just chopping and gradually going up or channeling, at some point shit's likely going to hit the fan, and that's where you got to be a little bit careful in call options, not necessarily for Tuesday, but later into the week. Because it could be a situation where we're just chopping and we're pushing a little bit higher, and then all of a sudden we get this crazy volatile move and we crack a key support level, finally, instead of, breaking out, reacting as support, forming a higher support, and then the SPY sells off to fill the gap. So just keep that in mind, right? We are still early into the week, so there could still be more call opportunity at the higher levels. But I went back throughout the daily chart, and these are the main things that I'm overall seeing. So in terms of one key level, let me add this right here. This is going to be a major key level for calls right here based off the daily chart pattern. This level right here, this 682 70. This is going to be a major level to be dip buying. I would say that's one of the best levels to be dip buying. If the SPY were to drop lower, which it is expected to currently. Like I said, I'm going to keep you updated one day at a time, but this is where currently, this is how I currently see things. This is where we currently are at. Without a doubt, it should bounce. It should bounce. So this is a very strong break and retest level. One thing I do dislike about this overall level is it has worked, during normal trading hours already. We had some resistance. We had the break. We had the retest, right? We had the green, double red, green, bullish pattern to be buying calls. We had the higher support. We had the green, red, green, break and retest, right? So in terms of today, we literally had two confirmations, and these are the confirmations that I use every single week to profit on call options when buying an oversold dip for a trend reversal or buying a break and retest. In terms of today, you had resistance here, you had the break, you had the retest, This right here, bullish engulfing, SPY spikes up. This right here, bullish engulfing, SPY spikes up. This right here, previous resistance, retest, green, double red, green, bullish confirmation, buy calls. This right here is a higher floor for hours above the previous highs. Green, red, green, bullish confirmation, buy calls. Green, red, green, bullish confirmation, buy calls, right? So with all that being said, this would be the zone, man. Based off the daily chart pattern, it's saying that it's gonna try to bounce right here. Now, what I dislike about this is it is a strong foundational pattern, but you're gonna need the best confirmations. What I dislike about it is it already played out. You know, resistance was right here, resistance was right here. We had the break, we had the retest, right? It reacted as support. So both of these break and retest levels already played out. So when something already plays out, that means it's already seen. People are more aware of it. And that's like my least favorite style of trading, you know? When I trade, I like to know the absolute best level that people aren't prepared for, that are going to either trap the bulls or trap the bears, you know, the most likely outcome that's going to happen for the first time. That's my overall preference. I don't like trading something that's already played out and already seen within the chart that everyone knows about, right? Just basic support and resistance. So in situations like these, I will say there is a strong daily chart foundation where it is going to attempt to bounce, but it's not good enough, but it helps. But since we do have that foundation, we're going to need the best confirmations. So if we're getting a lot of strong support, green, red, green, green, double red, green, I will consider it. But in terms of my true best levels for calls, this is where I currently stand on. This right here, this 682 is 681.77. This is very, very key, 681.77. 681.77 is that break and retest extended hour support that has not been tested, right? So a dollar below. Um, you know, the overall level that I basically just showed you that's signaling the daily chart pattern, right? So this is a key level of interest on calls. It has a nice foundation, but honestly, we need the best confirmations. This is a very strong level for calls, more automated, more automation level. Very, very interested in calls right here. This is considered a decent level for calls. This is the absolute best level for calls, the gap close reversal, right? So that's your overall price levels. 677 gap close reversal. 67830, it'll try to bounce first before attempting to go lower to fill the gap. Below that is going to be 681.22. If you're wondering for, you know, if this gap is going to fill this week, right? It's going to happen once we go below 681. Once we go below 681, you got to wait for it to go below, spike back up, form lower highs, drop back down, form the lower highs. Once it does that, then you can try puts on a support level. Really would not recommend puts at any other support levels as of now. I would go with the more lower, more oversold one where it's just holding up on air and then it starts to fill the gap below and then it tries to reverse in between this zone likely, right? So next level above that, next level above the 681.70, right? So this is our call zone. And then when it goes below, that's actually a put zone for a very, very nice quick 3-point potential drop. Above that, we have 683.50. I'm not interested in doing anything at 683.50. That's just a level to measure overall price action on where we go if SPY breaks above 682. That's all it is, or where we go if it goes under that to 682, right? Next level is the previous closing price. So based off the daily chart, this is where it gets a little bit more complex, right? This is why I'm saying, you know, in terms of the overall game plan, you're really going to have to trade more of the price ladder. But if we were to specifically go just based off levels, you keep your eyes on this for calls if the best confirmations are there, right? You can even see a little bit higher into the 683s if the best confirmations are there. And then also this is more of an automated buy level call, should bounce first at this 681.70. And then if it drops below, then you do the puts. That's expected later into the week, not early, right? Now, those are your levels where you're really kind of, you know, more game plan, more already confirmed, more of a long bias, but obviously use confirmations, right? Now, this is where it gets more complex. This is where you're truly, if you trade at these levels, there's lack of direction, there's lack of foundation. One thing we do know is the market is obviously due for a pullback, but it could be one of those situations where it just stagnates, pushes a little bit higher, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, later into the week, it loses a fuck ton of gains, right? So it just chops everyone up, has some nice moves for bulls, some small drops for bears, and then all of a sudden it crashes. That's currently what is expected to happen likely later into the week, Thursday, Friday, if not then earlier into next week, but likely later into the week. And like I said, I'm going to keep you updated each day at a time. But this is where it gets more complex. You're going to have to be more of a professional in terms of trading at these levels, and you need to use the best confirmation. And just understand, as of now, if you trade these levels, you're mainly just trading a price ladder without like a core strategy or core bias or core most likely outcome. But one thing in terms of all these levels is, and timing does come into play as well. The timing is expected more than later rather than earlier this week, where we are expected to drop. So just be aware of that when we are trading at these levels. A drop is expected, but likely later towards the end of the week rather than still early into the week, right? Pushing more towards Thursday on that, right? So, anyways, 685.24. So, based off of what I'm seeing on the daily chart, I would explain to you one key daily chart level where it's going to try to bounce here towards, the end of this overall daily chart candle right here. But basically, there's two potential outcomes, and this is where things are going to get a bit tricky. And I'm going to explain to you how to trade this heading into tomorrow, because this is likely going to be the first trade made on the day. Is it going to be a bullish dip buying opportunity or a bearish sell-off? That's what's expected for tomorrow. In terms of tomorrow, it's expected to be either an overall bearish move or bullish move, but it gets a little bit even more complex because if it is a bullish move, it can lose gains and close weak at the lows. So let's get into this. You can see right here, this daily candlestick looks very similar to this daily candlestick. Next day, it topped slightly above the previous day highs, then it sold off. So one thing I will say is these are the two possible outcomes that I'm seeing in terms of the put side. And again, this is the other situation for puts. On this day, it turned the previous closing price into support, had a spike, calls printed, then it sold back off. So, three potential outcomes, man. Like I said, this is going to be one of those days where, in terms of the game plan with the daily chart, in terms of the daily chart foundation, it lacks that like efficiency. That's what it is. It lacks the overall accuracy. Like there's three potential outcomes. In normal situations, we like to just trade daily chart foundations when there's just one. So if there's three outcomes, the best way to figure out which outcome it's going to be, because I'm going to explain to you all three, is to wait for the chart to develop and know the overall levels, right? So the three expected outcomes are the first one, it pushes slightly above previous day highs. And then if it drops below the previous closing price, reacts as a resistance and starts to, go below 683, then it's going to be an overall bearish trend day. Now, if that happens, it's going to try to recover into the close, very, very likely. So if that happens and we have a big sell-off, right? If we're topping towards previous day highs and you're seeing that the previous closing price is reacting as a strong resistance, you're seeing that it's going below 685, dropping to 684, spiking back up, forming lower highs, red, green, red, red, double green, red, then try to puts, ride it back down towards the lows, set the profit stops. Then hit the calls towards the previous day lows in between 682.70 to 682.20. That's the first game plan. Now, second game plan is going to be on this. If the SPY is holding the previous closing price, right? So understand this. If we get a small push above the highs, but it still holds the previous closing price, it's still bullish. But later in today, it could sell right back off to the previous closing price, right? So, like I said, if we go below previous closing price, react bearish, you can attempt to scalp on puts. Just be a little bit careful because if it bombs at that previous closing price, we're going to get new highs. And if we get those new highs, it's either going to be a strong bullish trend day or it's going to literally lose all of its gains. Those are the other two outcomes. So this is the other situation. We bottom at the previous closing price, we spike above previous day highs, and then we close at previous closing price. So if the SPY literally has a massive breakout above the previous day highs into the morning, then it's more favoring a situation where it's either going to have a strong bullish close or it's going to top, early into the morning to the middle of the day. Early into the morning, it's going to top to drop to fill the gap, and then it's going to reverse the gap and then drop back down. So that's another thing to keep in mind. If we have a big, massive spike heading into the market open tomorrow above previous day highs is gonna try to drop to fill the gap, and then it's gonna try to reverse at the gap for the short term. And then if it goes below the gap, it's bearish. If it holds the gap, it's bullish. Then it can either sell right back off towards the previous top in the morning, or it closes at the top in the morning. So just keep all that in mind. But this right here, this is another one where if we bottom at previous closing price, it spikes and then it closes weak at the previous closing price. So in terms of the three potential closes, you're looking at a close at the previous closing price, or you're looking at a close in the middle of this candle, where if it bottoms at the previous day lows, or you're looking at a strong bullish close, which would be the third outcome. And the third outcome would be, SPY just has a bullish close, and in order for it to do that, it just needs to maintain above the previous closing price, right? So obviously, our key level is going to be the previous closing price, 685.24. If the SPY has a big gap up, I would say above 687.50, then look to scalp a call at or slightly below the previous closing price. A better price would be right around 684. This is a very nice level for calls if the SPY gaps up, rips above the previous day highs. Very, very nice level. A quick scalp on calls where the SPY should attempt to bounce first right here. Again, only if it's gapping up or having a nice 2-point breakout above the previous all-time high here, right? So that's the idea for calls. In terms of puts, if it's having a massive gap up in the morning, look for a put, ride it back down to fill the gap below, right? So if we have a massive gap up, look for calls slightly below the gap, look for puts, just look for bearish confirmation, green, red, green, red, look for puts at new all-time highs. That's the morning trade idea. That's literally it. Now, it gets a little bit more complex, but still leaning on calls. This is the less ideal situation, but still ideal. If we're just opening up towards like 684s, then just look to scalp calls. But use best confirmations. If not, then just look to get calls right here. So like I said, man, the biggest issue with the game plan is it's not the clearest daily chart foundation. It more relies on if we're going to get this big gap up. Basically, what I'm telling you is the easiest move would be if we got like a decent gap up. If we gapped up above like 686 plus, it should give us an opportunity for puts first. Then it should give us an opportunity for calls at the gap. And then from there, we figure out if the overall trend is bullish or bearish by waiting for the chart to develop, right? So another thing that's going to be very important tomorrow, use those two trade ideas. If the market's gapping up, then look for an oversold dip buying opportunity on calls first, or just look to buy calls towards the previous day lows. That's what I would suggest. And in the meantime, and the number one focus after that morning session, right? And again, if the morning session doesn't play out like how I said, if we're not getting that gap up, right? Because it's literally saying three fucking things can happen. But I'm telling you, if we get this gap up, and that's what I would prefer to happen, it should drop back down, fill the gap, start to reverse. And then from there, we have to figure out if it's going to be a bullish or bearish trend. But either ways, we just had two wins. One win on puts, towards open with bearish confirmation. One win on calls below the gap for a quick reversal spike, profit stopped out. And then from there, what I would suggest is most important thing after the market open trading session is going to be waiting for the chart to develop. So in order for you to get an edge, right, keep the most likely outcomes, the three outcomes that I mentioned, what can happen with the daily chart, it's signaling three things. But as the chart develops and as time passes, we're going to get more of a confirmation on what's actually going to happen out of the three natural outcomes. Like I said, preferably, I like the daily chart to have one simple pattern, and it tends to work 80% plus at a time, and it puts me in a situation to trade the overall trend on the day to make multiple trades, and some trades even against the overall trend if I want to scalp against it, right? But in this particular daily chart foundation, it's signaling there's three potential outcomes, but that doesn't mean that it's three potential outcomes. That means we have to determine and figure out by waiting for time to pass, by waiting for the chart confirmations, by waiting for levels to play out to figure out what's actually going to occur. It's going to be a bit more challenging, but the edge within this, with everything I've just given you, is the chart. Wait for the chart to develop. The biggest edge is if we get a gap up, buy puts, ride back down to fill the gap, then calls, right? That's what I want to happen. But the daily chart doesn't signal that any of this is going to happen. It says literally three things can happen, but that's what I would prefer to happen. It's the easiest play, and it makes a lot of sense. If not, then I would prefer an oversold dip buying opportunity on calls first, best level previous day lows for the morning trades, right? And then from there, like I said, You need to wait for the chart to develop and then use the information that I provided to you with the 30-minute chart and with the levels to determine and confirm what's going to happen. Is previous closing price reacting bullish? Then it could attempt to close bullish, but you got locking gains because it can close at the previous closing price, right? Previous closing price is reacting bearish. Then you do a quick scalp on puts, make your money there, right? Previous closing price will be the number one level along with 684 to be trading tomorrow, along with new all-time highs. But the safest way to short new all-time highs is in the morning if we get a big gap up. Because if we're opening up towards previous closing price, this is either going to close strong at the highs for a bullish close, or it's going to give back its gains and go back to the previous closing price. So the safest way to short is to short as it's having a big gap up, which it currently isn't. But if it does, that's the safest way to short. Otherwise, you're playing a 50-50 unless you get confirmations. And one of the confirmations would be is, if there's a double top. If SPY, didn't have a big gap up and it bottomed at the previous closing price and then it had a big spike. From there, if it drops back down and rips back up and reacts bearish during the middle of the day, key time would be middle of the day, then look for a quick scalp on puts. So that's what I have to say, man. It's definitely going to be a more challenging day to be trading, but I can assure you, based off of how we are setting up, man, it's going to be a phenomenal trading day. We are going to absolutely crush it. I mean, in terms of like what this looks like, man, there's just so many like fucking patterns. It kind of looks like this right here, where we have this nice ramp up. And then we stagnate, and then it turns previous day highs into support, and then it's a bullish move, and then a drop into the close. So one thing I will say is, if the SPY is turning the previous day high into support, you're going to want to be looking for calls in between this zone for new all-time highs, right? So just keep that in mind, because there is a pattern signaling that that's what can happen right here. In terms of what this looks like on a 30-minute chart, I would encourage you to compare October 23rd and October 24th to then, Monday and then Tuesday. And the point being is, if SPY holds this zone, buy calls, that's your first trade. If SPY is a big break above the zone, wait for the first red 30-minute candlestick confirmation, then buy the puts. It should be a nice scalp on puts. Those are literally some of the best trade ideas within the market. I mean, in terms of 30-minute trend pattern recognition, it looks like this to me. It looks like it could literally be another October 24th in the making, where as long as we hold above 684, we get a massive spike, and then we get some drops, double tops, triple tops. Keep all that in mind, man. That's what it looks like the most. So that is the game plan. It's going to be a very, very simple, lucrative, profitable day. And again, the other side of the spectrum in terms of what I just said, because there's just so many fucking patterns. Like it's really not just one clear pattern. It's multiple signals. Like in a way, it looks like this too. You can say it looks like this too, where it just tops at previous day highs, right? So this is another point. So if SPY drops back down, it bounces first, and then it tops towards previous day highs. So this 686 is going to be a very, very key level if it reacts bearish to try put. And this zone is going to be a key level for calls. And that's it, man. I'm telling you, we're going to crush it. It's going to be more challenging in terms of using a game plan, but based off of what I'm seeing, man, by the morning, it's going to be phenomenal. We should have a win right off the bat. We should start our day off very, very green like we always do. So yeah, that's the overall game plan. You guys should crush it. Those are your key levels of interest. 686, 685 to 684 zone, 682.80, 681, 678, 677. That's what you need to be aware of in terms of heading to tomorrow. And it's likely just going to stay, around this overall zone, nothing too fucking crazy, right? But we're going to kill it. And then, we could have that break above the all-time highs, but it's going to be quick. So the market, I'm telling you, based off how we're setting up, literally likely the market open session in the middle of the day is going to be the best time to trade tomorrow. And then later into the day. So like literally directly at market open, probably going to make a trade. Middle of the day, one more trade if we get a scalp on puts, if it reacts bearish at resistance with the first red bearish 30-minute candlestick confirmation. So if we're just selling off, likely look for a dip buying opportunity towards market open with the green confirmations, right? Like a green, red, green, green, red, green. If it's breaking out and retesting at one of the zone levels, right? At one of these levels right here, calls at market open. and then a put on the first red bearish 30-minute candlestick confirmation. And then from there into the close, if SPY is just reacting bearish, look for one more put into the close, right? That's the most likely situations that I'm going to be looking for. And those are the overall levels, right? So remember, if the level reacts bullish, we go up to the next level. If the level reacts bearish, we go down to the next level. In terms of the daily chart foundation, it's signaling 3 potential outcomes. In terms of the 30-minute candlestick confirmation, it's signaling 2 potential outcomes. But based off of this 30-minute chart pattern, if there's one thing that's certain, without a doubt, it does appear that in terms of the easiest print on the day would be to buy calls at an oversold dip. So one thing that the 30-minute chart is signaling, and the daily chart did signal this as well, except the only thing the daily chart conflicted was it could potentially go back to previous day lows instead of bottoming at the previous closing price, but even does, it's probably going to try to bounce at previous closing price. But let's just put it this way. Your best price for calls based off the daily chart, if it happens, 1 out of 3 scenarios, right? So literally 33% odds currently, you buy calls at the previous day lows. But based off the 30-minute chart, which is more realistic in this situation, right? On both of the outcomes out of one of the two, it's literally signaling on both in this situation where multiple outcomes can occur to just buy calls at a dip in the morning. And in terms of our dip levels, it's really in between here. It's right in between here. Previous day highs and then right here. Those are your main levels. And if it just dropped to either here or here, I would just automatically get in. But basically, in the morning, if we're in between this zone or even lower, better. But if we're getting a confirmation, or if we're just in between this zone holding support, just buy the calls, sell the rip, and then on the first red bearish 30-minute candlestick confirmation is going to try to drop, right? Especially towards the previous day highs or slightly above it, scalp the puts. Those are your two main trade ideas. Then from there, later on throughout the day, I would encourage you to do nothing, wait for the chart to develop, and wait to make a power hour trade. So you should be thinking 2 trades, one at market open, one later into the day, likely at around 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. window. Do nothing, wait for the chart to develop after those 2 trades. Then on your third trade, if you take it, don't risk going green to red, and look to make a trade on power hour. And in terms of the power hour trades, there were 2 signals where it tries to close weak. So the odds are currently in the favor of puts if it's at major resistance previous day highs or above all-time highs, right? So have puts in the back of your mind in terms of the win rate. Calls is the least likely favor for an overall strong bullish close, but if it's at an oversold dip, you can consider it. But if we're at more towards resistance and we're seeing bearish confirmations, lean more towards on the put side. And again, that's just a YOLO. Do not give back your gains, right? You should be able to be very successful tomorrow with a 67% win rate. So that's the overall game plan. And that's literally it. You guys use this, you're gonna absolutely crush it. And keep in mind, like I said, in terms of the weekly chart pattern, SPY was expected for a drop to 677. It's still early into the week, but it's also expected for a strong bullish trending week. So you can see there's so many conflictions, but if there's one thing that's certain, all of these conflicting patterns that we're experiencing due to, multiple pattern signals, and then, the difficulty of trading at all-time highs, especially when things are more stagnant and choppy, is the bulls are consistently winning on all of the dips. And based off the 30-minute patterns, it's signaling that if we open up at the market open towards the dips, you're going to want to be buying those dips at the market open into the fear when people think this is high in price and it's going to sell off. If we're opening up towards those lower range levels, 685, 684 on bullish reactions, lower the better, buy those calls in the morning, right? And then just wait for puts on the first red bearish 30-minute candlestick confirmation. So it took some time. In the beginning of creating this game plan, it wasn't as confident, but now that I've clearly established it by dissecting the 30-minute chart and by going through all the outcomes and signals, I would say we're looking at 3 trades tomorrow. The first 2 trades should be wins without a doubt. And if the market's just reacting bearish at resistance, I might look for a quick put. It's just more realistic to make a quick scalp on puts, even if it does close bullish if you time it right. So the strongest idea for power hour, if SPY's at major resistance, is just a quick put. Even if it closes bullish, the put will likely print, right? And it just favors more on the put side. But in the beginning, look for an oversold dip at open, and then puts towards major resistance with the first red bearish 30-minute confirmation, quick scalp 30-minute chart, make a nice 30, 50, 60%. And then just wait towards power hour. This really ended up coming out to be an amazing game plan. In the beginning, as I was creating it, It was more complex. More is not confident with just too many potential outcomes. But basically, on how I just broke this down, this is going to be extremely predictable, extremely lucrative. We should start off the day with two massive wins. So yeah, for those of you who are serious about trading alongside the best real-time zero-date options trade alert system in the market, it's going to be the first link down below within the description. Inside of Team Roar, this is what you gain access to. If you use this game plan, you should be extremely profitable heading into tomorrow. But this is what you gain access to, man. So in terms of my trade, I ended up making one trade today. It was a small win, but a win is a win, and a green day is a green day, especially once your account grows. You'll be like, dude, even the small green days are amazing fucking green days, you know? So I sold these calls too early, but man, I held them a fuck ton, but I still made a decent return. I mean, I would say it's decent considering that this trade was red for a while and the market was overall stagnant and choppy, and puts and calls were getting screwed over. Like I said, this was a very difficult day to be trading far out of the money zero date options. Literally, the big move did not come all the way up until the close. But I bought these 584 calls at 44 cents at 11:44 a.m. You know, basically basically the reason for calls is that overall pattern that I just explained to you recently in the 30-minute chart, for the continued bullish uptrend. But basically, I bought these calls at 44 cents. They dropped, and I added at 34 cents, you know, which got my average to about 40 cents. And I sold it at 50 cents, right? So for me, this was a small win. I made like 25% on this. It's much better than a green day to have, you know, a smaller green day, right? But in terms of what we do, this is fucking nothing. It's still like a nice little green day, but this is nothing because on our biggest green days, it's literally like fucking 10 fucking massive wins, add to the wins, multiple 100% adds up to 1,000% plus. This was literally just like a 25% win, nothing too crazy, but I did add to the wins, which did increase the gains. And then calls banked because SPY went deep in the money. The calls went to 150 cents. I was in at 40 cents. If you do the math, they went up 300% nearly. So later into the day, exactly at power hour, you know, G-Roar within the chat, he was explaining to people, and I'm very, you know, very proud of this situation because there's been times where he would make two or three trades despite the price action being shit. Because on one thing in terms of far out of the money zero date options is, you know, they're not meant to be traded every single day. So you either don't trade at all or you trade a strike that's closer to in the money, which is what we normally don't do. So you either adapt, and you adapt by going closer into the money and making a smaller scalp, or you just do nothing, you know. And in the past, I've seen G-Roar, he'll make like, you know, sometimes he won't adapt, which is completely fine because the green days are so fucking massive. Literally on our red days, like we recently had one red day, it was so small. We had like two losses and one win. On the green days, we'll have like 10 wins and like no losses, and we'll add to the winners. It's like the win rate doesn't matter, the red days doesn't matter. But this is really good. You know, big shout out to G-Roar because not only did he make the best trade on the day, but literally he adapted. Because like I said, in terms of past recent times when it wasn't the best to, you know, maybe be trading puts or maybe be going extremely far out, it's been some red trades on the day, but then one big win on the day recouped it all. But obviously, you know, for smaller accounts and stuff like that, they don't like red trades at all and stuff like that. They prefer 100% fucking accuracy, right? But in terms of this situation, man, Giro did an amazing job because literally it was just one trade, and it was towards the end of the day, and it was the biggest win in the market. You know, like this is fucking amazing. Like he dropped the dots at 11:41 a.m., you know, where there could have potentially been a trade, but no trade was made. And he brought a lot of awareness in the secured private organization that you know, it's not a good day to be trading. We need to wait. And then he said, power hour, we're just going to trade the YOLOs. And then this was the YOLO during power hour. 6870 SPX calls for 110 cents, and added to the winners at 90 cent. And this went to 550. So this was a 500% gain on a day where zero date far the money zero date options got destroyed the entire day. You know, and these were literally purchased nearly at the lows right here, you know, 100% above the lows. Trade still goes up 500%. Low is at 48. We're in at 90. It goes to 640, right? And you could see profit target reached, set profit stops at a 500, sell at 550. Who do you know is winning this big on the most challenging, toughest day to trade far the money zero to options. Look at this. This is the whole day. You want to see the whole day? Look at this. This is like fucking nothing. This isn't much, you know? Green, double red, green, bullish buy calls, but it only went from 683 to 683.80. Not a big move, you know? Like you would have to buy in the money to see a nice little print on that, and you have to get in towards the exact lows. Green, red, green, bullish buy calls, and then it goes from 684 to 684.30. So it's like using the confirmations today, you would have been in at higher prices, and whenever SPY had a breakout today, it's like the calls didn't even print unless you went deep in the money, unless you went in the money, which is something that we really don't do. But even if you went in the money, you're paying more and the moves weren't even that big. So this is fucked. The only way to really make money on some calls is if you went closer to the money and bought at the exact lows, which just wasn't realistic because the confirmations didn't form until the breakouts, you know? Green, double red, green, confirmation to buy calls right here at the higher level, not at the lower level. Green, red, green, confirmation to buy calls here at the higher level, not at the lower level. So in terms of the curriculum and what we teach in the levels, in this situation, the only way we could have bought calls, which is the higher levels, which is completely fine. You know, sometimes we get into lower levels, sometimes the higher levels if you use the confirmations. But what's not fine is SPY wasn't having big moves, you know? That was the biggest issue. SPY was not having big moves on the overall day. So it was not the day to be trading farther money zero dated options. But like I said, regardless, one trade on the day, a 500% win added to the wins, which doubles the gains. So like I said, with a trade like this, in a green day like this, you should be able to be green enough for the rest of the week where you do not flip red, even if there is L's or even if there is a red day, which we rarely have. Like, dude, you got to remember, if we have a red day, which rarely happens, it's like 2 losses and 1 win. That means like 200% lost to our multiples, 1 small win, maybe 50, 100%. But on a green day, in at 100, added to the trade, which doubles the gains, sold at 500, went to 600, 500% return. Red day, minus 200%. Green day, 500% to 1,000%. But it's not just outperformance by percentages because we're adding to the winners, which doubles the gains. That means the win rate don't even matter, man. It's just by adding to the winners, it diminishes the win rate. It's like it doesn't even fucking exist. You know, it's one thing to, you know, have one trade make 600% and then have 2 trades lose 200%. Moshe could lose 100%. Moshe could make his unlimited profit percent, right? So in that situation, you're extremely profitable just by percentages. You're extremely profitable with a 33% win rate, right? Which is why red trades don't fucking matter, especially when every single day almost the trades are green first, right? The trades are green first. So if you flip red, you need to leave the fucking group and get the fuck out because there's no reason to flip green to red. So this is amazing work, man. This was the most challenging, toughest day to be trading far the money zero day options. He timed it near fucking perfect, added to the wins, which doubled the gains, and it went up 600 fucking percent. And then after that win, we had the 6875 SPX puts for 50 cents. These went in the money, sold at 70 cents. 2 for 2, 100% success rate. 1 for 1, 100% success rate. Sold too soon. But a green day is green day, and a win is a win, especially on a rough day to be trading zero-dated options. I'm telling you, most people who traded far out of the money zero-dated options likely lost money. And one of the reasons why they would have lost money is because they were on the wrong side of the trend and bought puts, or they were on the right side of the trend but didn't use our system, which means you do not use stop losses. You put in your max risk per trade. The most you lose is what you put in, 100% of what you put in. The way to put in more without risking more is to set a profit stop when you add to a winner. It doubles to triples the gains, and you get profit stop down the green. We don't add to losers. And in terms of losers, we rarely sell for losses. 7 out of 10 times where we don't time a trade right, it comes back to life because we're right about the trend the vast majority of the time. And we rarely ever have a red days. Losing is genuinely a personal choice. Like I said, in a situation like this, if we had a red day, you know, this week, this should be able to fucking hold you for that easily, you know? Or if you had some red trades this week, results like this with what we did today, it should be able to hold you for the entire week. Whether you have some red trades or whatever the fuck happens, you have a red day or whatever the fuck you do, this should be able to hold you. So it really comes down to a game of risk management, you know? If you buy at 100 and you sell at 500 and you add it to the winners, right? You would have made with 2 contracts, you would have made $1,000. So if you're up $1,000 by risking $220, then that means each day you need to define risks to stay green for the rest of the week, and then you cash out on Friday and reset your account. So each day from here, if you made $1,000 because you added to the win and had 2 contracts, then you should risk, we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we got 4 days, right? You should risk like fucking $200 a day max, If you do that, right? And how many trades can you make with $200? Well, by risking $200, each contract's $50 on average. I would say you can make 3 trades realistically, one power hour YOLO and 2 SPY trades. SPY trades 50 cents a contract, $50 a contract, 2 trades. And SPX trades 1 trade, right? So 3 trades a day, risk $200. And worst case scenario, you get back 20% of your gains on a red day. Best case scenario, you make unlimited profit potential. And you can add to the wins and risk more in a way where you're not risking more by adding to the wins and setting the profit stop. You get profit stopped out, This is what we do. We add to the wins and set the fucking profit stops. So you add to the wins, add at 80 cents, in at 65 cents, right? Shit fucking, this was yesterday's. Look, this was Fridays. This was Fridays. Look at Friday's power hour. This is why we trade the power hour, guys. This is why, look, it doesn't matter if we have a power hour trading session and it doesn't work out. The reason why it doesn't matter is the power hour trading sessions the gains always outweigh the losses if you stick around. But not only that, we're usually green enough to walk away. So if you're green enough to walk away, you don't risk going to fucking red, and you can still take the YOLOs if you have, some decent profits, a couple $100. So 6795 SPX puts for 65 cents, add, sold at 500 cents, right? That was Friday's power hour trade. 50 cents, that was power hours trade. 65 cents to 500 cents, that's 1,000% on Friday, right? You can have 9 losses in a row. You can have 1 loss during power hour for the next 9 power hour sessions, still be green. You can have fucking 15 L's, still be green. How can you have more L's? Because we added to the wins. 1,000%, you can have 100% losses, still be green, still up 100%, but we add to the wins, which double the gains. You can have a fuck ton more losses. Do you understand? This is the system. I'm putting you onto the system. And then look, that was Friday. Now this is fucking Monday. And like I said, I got to give a big shout out to Giro because, like I said, in recent times, I've seen situations where he didn't really adopt in terms of far the money zero when it wasn't a day to trade far the money zero the options. He was either green still, but they just weren't the best of trades, or he was just red in a situation where it was like 2 losses. But one thing I do like in terms of this, massive improvements that I've seen, when we first started, we would overdo the L's. There would be a lot more losses on red days. Now, whenever we have a red day, which rarely happens, literally like once or twice every 3 months, whenever we have a red day, it's only like 2 losses. And there's usually like 1 win. Not that we need it. It's only like 2 L's. Very, very small. But this was a massive improvement because he waited the whole day. He brought awareness to the chat that he's just going to wait to trade power hour. So he stuck with his plan and he read the price action rather than just trying to get in. Like some of the worst trades I've seen would be like if he's in at like 30 cents and then it expires worthless and goes to 0, and then quickly after that he'll make another trade just with a different strike on the same side. That's another thing. When you're trading far out of the money 0-day options, it's typically a red flag if you're going extremely far out. Let's say you're buying puts and you're going extremely far out. If you instantly lose on the trade and then you go extremely far out again on the same side within a short period of time, it's usually a red flag. The main best way to do that, unless it's at the best level, is to wait for things to space out. That's one thing I've seen, within times, but I haven't seen him do that in quite some time. But this was a massive improvement, and this is in full alignment because, like I said, in recent times, I've seen where like Giro would trade it, but this time he didn't trade it. He waited the whole fucking day, stuck with a power hour plan because he said this is shit price action, likely just going to trade the power hour, and then he calls the best trade out during power hour, which was also in full alignment, with the trade that I make, and both of the trades went up multiple 100%. So big shout out to him, crushing it on both power hour trading sessions. And it also goes to show you, this is contrast. That's something that a lot of people in this world, they fail to see. They fail to see both sides of the spectrum. They fail to see, it's called contrast. That's what people fail to see. A lot of people will see, oh, wow, 2 losses during power hour. This is shit. This sucks. But then when there's a massive win and we add to the wins, they'll see how it offsets the losses, not just by the percentage gains, but it doubles the gains because we add to the wins. It's a double offset to get you rich and put you in a situation where it's more of you have to trade during power hour, because you're going to go fucking green by adding to that win, and the percentage gains in the green sessions are always going to be bigger than the percentage losses. It's a double fucking offset. That's what I'm saying. How can people create a way to double offset their losses where the win rate doesn't even matter, where the win rate is actually the least thing that matters within their foundational trading? It's by winning big and adding to winners. If the most you can lose is 100% and the most you can make is unlimited profit potential percent, that means you can win bigger than your losses all the time, so the win rate don't matter. If you add to your wins and don't add to your losers, that means your wins are going to be bigger dollar-wise and percentage-wise because they can go up unlimited profit potential. Those are the only ways to do it. But the catch is, if you use a stop loss, you're never going to experience the big wins and you're not going to be able to add to the winners. You're going to get, stopped out overall. So keep that in mind. Don't use stop losses. The most you put into these trades is your max risk per trade. The way you should think about it is whenever you enter a trade, you have an idea of the contracts. SPX could be 100, SPY could be under 50, right? So you know how much you're going to risk before the alert even gets sent out. And you should have an idea of the most you're going to risk on that. And you should go into this with understanding of this is not every trade is going to win, but the winning days always outweigh the losing days. And we rarely have losing days, but we do have some L's on the day. Some days it's 2 for 3, 67% win rate, but the wins are fucking 1,000 fucking percent. So it doesn't fucking matter. That's what I'm saying. We have the strongest foundation to be successful with a low win rate, but we have a high win rate because we're the best. But with a low win rate, we could be extremely successful because we add to winners and the percentage gains are unlimited and the percentage losses are limited to 100% max. That is why. That is the cutting edge. And it's not just a situation where we're putting ourselves into trades that have unlimited profit potential. It's a situation where we're making unlimited profit potential. Literally one of the toughest parts in this group is literally the wins. It's not losses. Losing's fucking easy. Like I said, you should go into the trades knowing that the money's already gone. You already lost it. Whatever you put into the contract, it's already gone. Now, obviously, if you add to a win, you're putting in more, so you shouldn't think of it that way because you're setting a profit stop and you get profit stopped out. But whatever you put into the trade, if it's not up and you don't set that profit stop, it's already gone. That money's gone. You risked it, it's gone, right? If you sell for a massive win, then it worked out in your favor. But the most you risk is what you put into the trade at the end of the day. That's your max risk per trade, right? So for those of you who are serious about, surrounding yourself with the best real-time zero-day options trade alert system, gaining access to these trades in real time, cheap, low-risk, far-the-money zero-day options trades, surrounding yourself with the best secured private organization and community on the fucking planet who's ever traded zero-day options, it's going to be the first link down below. Within the description, you'll see it's unlimited win, unlimited printing. Look at, man, bangers, man. Added to 684 calls at 20 cents. Dude, I was in these 684 calls. I added at 34 cents. Look at this. This is self-sufficient. I got in at 44 cents. I added at 34 cents. We had a member add at 20 cents. When we bought this trade, it dropped 60%. We had a member add at 20 cents. Look at the results. $1,000 profit, That's what happens, man. The only reason why we added to loser is because it wasn't far out of the money. If a trade's not that far out of the money and we're right about the trend, it does kind of make sense to add to a loser. But if a trade is far out of the money, then it doesn't make as much sense because instead of adding to a loser, you can just buy a second strike, which is what we tend to do. And sometimes the second strike is just a hedge. It's not even on the other side of the trade, but typically it is because we're typically always right about the trend. So big shout out to Bagger, making fucking bags on that. That's what I'm saying, dude. If you ain't got a band, look, it's tough to have motion without bands. There's levels to motion. If you guys want motion, you got to have at least a band. You got to have some bands. You got to at least be able to say, yeah, I had a 28 cents, fucking $1,000 profit, made a band. Like, you get bands, you get some motion. It's just, it's another layer for motion, right? But yeah, man, calls went up from being 1 cent to literally, calls were up 110 cents. Fucking amazing, man. So, anyways, we killed it. We're the best. You guys need to join the group. This is living proof. We're the absolute best zero-day traders on the fucking planet because I can assure you, most people who traded zero-day options, especially if they went far the money, like G-Roar did during the power hour, they likely got clapped. And G-Roar had back-to-back 1,000% gains. Friday and Thursday, I showed you the trade on Friday was 1,000% on puts added to the winners, and then the trade on Monday was a 500% win added to the winners, right? So you need to understand these gains should be able to hold you for weeks. Every single week, you reset your account. And that's what we do. Every single week, we reset the account. Start over with a brand new account, cash out, take the profit. You can spend some on the weekends. You can create buckets, you know? If you make profit on the week, you can put, a certain percentage. You put a percentage aside for taxes. You put a percentage aside, for you can make buckets, right? If you're cashing out every single week on a nice green week, you can make a couple buckets and put the money into each bucket. You can put a percentage for taxes, like 30%. You can put a percentage towards investing into yourself, you know, your mind, your body, your future, your goals, businesses. You can put a percentage to investing. You want to make some passive investments, or you can put a percentage as well towards savings. You want to save towards something. You could put a percentage towards like your, fuck you, degenerate, do whatever you want budget. That's, could be for when the market's closed or when you're not trading, whenever you want, whatever's suitable for your schedule, or on the weekends, go out, do some fun shit, right? Multiple buckets, cash out every single week, reset the account. So we're the absolute best, man. These went to 150, man. 684 puts, 36 cent. They went to 150. Fucking amazing, man. That's turning $370 into fucking $1,500 if you held that. I sold mine too soon for 25%, but G-Work came in with a massive win on the power hour trade way after mine, but in alignment with the side of my trade. So yeah, man, this was an amazing day. But like I said, big shout out to G-Work. It's a massive improvement. We got members talking about, going public. They want to see Roar on the stock exchange, publicly traded, symbol Roar. Alternate symbol, fucking goat. Third symbol, YOLO. It's like, dude, I'm telling you, man, Team Roar, this is limitless. There's no fucking ceiling here, man. For those of you who want to fucking push past your fucking ceilings, there's no fucking ceiling here, man. It's limitless. You join this group, you're gonna fucking grow. It's gonna force fucking growth on you. It's a lot. It's gonna force you to fucking grow. If you're in this fucking group, you need to be aware of that, man. It's gonna force you to fucking grow. You're gonna be fucking hungry. You're gonna be wanting to win. You're gonna be fucking hungry for those fucking gains, man. It's unlimited fucking winning, unlimited fucking printing on how much money we're extracting out of the stock market. So this is what we do, man. But yeah, we had a member talking about, taking the whole company, public. But yeah, man, like I said, we got the best trade alert system in the market. Nobody's got anything like this. You go any other group, you ain't gonna find anything like this. This is gifted, this is rare, this is sacred. This is 1 in a fucking trillion. Not 1 in a million. This is 1 in a fucking trillion. This is like, you ain't gonna find shit like this anywhere else, dude. Nobody fucking prints like us. Nobody wins as much as we do. Nobody is as competent as we are within the overall stock market trading zero-date options, Zero-date options, a lot of people look at this as like a high-risk, lotto, degenerate gambling. It's not. You can have a real system that works, and I'm trying to explain to you, like, we have it. This is a real system. It works. You can experience it in real time. You can go on demand, think or swim, experience it when the markets close, decode what we're doing, trade alongside us. You're going to level up regardless and see what we're doing in real time. I'm telling you, there's nothing like it, man. There's nothing like it. It's unlimited fucking winning and unlimited fucking printing nonstop. Team Roar just hit new all-time highs, and we fucking are killing it, man. Like I said, a lot of the new members, for whatever reason, and I think it actually makes sense on why, but a lot of the new members, they don't talk. They wait until like a couple weeks to even introduce themselves. They're more of just observing the program. But if you guys have any questions, because we did just get a lot of new people join on Sunday and even on Monday, but a lot on Sunday. If you guys have any other questions or anything, feel free to post in the chat. It's an amazing active community. We have no intent of like banning anyone or doing anything wrong or anything like that. We'll answer your questions. We're here. If you guys have any questions, you let us know. Because like I said, I've noticed typically I would say 70% of the new members who join, they don't say anything until like 2 or 3 weeks. I think they're just more observing the members. But you can see we got a couple new Greenleafs, chatting. But with the amount we just got, and that's just typically how it is for whatever reason. Like a lot of people just observe the program, and then later on they either talk or they don't talk, and they just keep observing the program. But like I said, if you guys have any questions or anything, or you want to experience the community, it's completely fine, to do so. Um, just know that we don't tolerate, hate or disrespect. That's the one thing we're strict about. If you're just gonna be like a piece of shit and disrespect people and stuff like that, then you're gonna have to get out of the group. But like I said, we let people be themselves, and if they're a piece of shit, then they just gotta go. We ain't gonna wait for them to not be a piece of shit anymore. If someone's a piece of shit, they's got to go. But at the end of the day, we let people be who they are, and we support freedom of speech and fun active community. Like we let people do what they want to do. But obviously, if they're doing something wrong, they gotta go. So it's just common sense. But yeah, like just one thing though, we're never gonna send you a direct message. All of the scammers, impersonators, or bots, they're in the direct messages. We're never gonna send you a direct message. The only thing we offer at this time is the first link down below in the description. So if you want to trade alongside us, I highly recommend it, man, because the group's at all-time highs. People are talking about they want to see Roar, public on the stock exchange. And the trades, man, in GROR, I'm telling you, like massive improvement. I would say in terms of, GROR's trading, I would say this is a massive W, and he needs to, keep that with him and keep evolving. Because in terms of evolution, what he did today, that's a fucking insane fucking improvement, man. And when you're the absolute best, it's hard to fucking improve, in terms of when you're the absolute best at what you do, it's hard to improve. You have to be able to see the smallest things that most people don't see, which could require making mistakes or, just awakening in certain areas, just evolution. It comes with time or just certain, discipline and habits, stuff like that. But it's like once you're already on top, it does become harder to improve because the details are just so fucking small and so fucking complex. Where a lot of people are more focused on what's important, which is the entirety of the foundation rather than the smallest improvements. But for the rare ones who could do both, and that's what Giro ended up doing today, he literally did both. He noticed the smallest of details and improved in that sense. Big shout out to him, man. That was fucking, you could not have done a better thing in terms of than what he did. It was fucking insane, amazing, man. Because like I said, in the past, I've seen him in situations like this, maybe make like 2 or 3 trades instead of just one. And it's like maybe 2 L's in a certain situation, or just, it's not just 100% the best, but this was like perfect. So we carry that and keep on improving. Oh my gosh, the fucking results are just going to be even more amplified because this was fucking amazing. And then that trade on Friday was a 1000% win on puts. It's like, dude, nobody's fucking doing this, man. Nobody. So if you're looking for the best secured private organization who trades 0 to 8 options, it's the first link down below within the description. We're going to crush it all week. We're going to be printing all week. I'm telling you, man, it's unlimited fucking gains, man. It's unlimited fucking. Look at this. Who does this, man? Look at these trades. Look at these trades. 6,740 SPX puts. Remember how I told you we made 1,000% on these SPX puts and we added to the winners? Look at this. 6,740 SPX puts on the most degenerate broker known to man, Robinhood. Look at this. 25 cents, one contract. $25 turned into $500, 2,000%. Where are you going to make 2,000%? And again, the most you put in is your max risk per trade, right? When people use a stop loss and they get stopped out, they lose their max risk per trade. When our contracts expire worthless and goes to zero and we take an L, the most we lose is our max risk per trade. We don't sell for L's. Don't use a broker who's going to auto sell you out after 3:30 p.m. on SPY, like fucking Robinhood, or like Webull, who's not going to allow you to trade certain tickers and stuff like that past a certain time, 3:40 p.m., whatever the fuck. You get what I'm saying, man. Use real brokers. Thinkorswim, Charles Schwab, use brokers designed for 0 dates. But still, the fucking results regardless, it's fucking insane, man. Not liking all the I just don't get why people use Robinhood. If you're in the absolute, I look at it as disrespect. That's how I see it, man. I also see it as, a lot of newbies and beginners potentially, but like, I look at it as disrespect because like, you're in the best group possible. It's almost like a betrayal. That's how it feels like. It feels like a betrayal because like if you're in the best group possible, why wouldn't you use the best broker possible if you're in the best group and just pay the commissions? We don't get any affiliate. We're not affiliated with them. They don't have affiliates. Like, it's a real broker. It's not one of these situations where it's just mass spread by YouTubers and affiliate commissions, money, money, money. No, it's like Thinkorswim Schwab is the best broker without a doubt to trade farther 0 to 8 options. It's like, if you're in the best group, why not give yourself the best chance to succeed, right? for unlimited winning and unlimited printing, right? Why not have the best reflection, the best, you know, tools, the best, why not apply the best skill set, the best group with the best broker? Why use Robinhood? Just doesn't make sense to me. So I do encourage people to switch all the time. Recently Robinhood and Webull, they had fucking problems with their brokerages. It's a whole fucking mess, man. Just trade on Thinkorswim by Schwab. It's the absolute best. If not, look into interactive brokers. But you guys will see, man. We're gonna continue to print nonstop. It's unlimited fucking winning, unlimited fucking printing, and it's the first link down below in the description. If you would like to trade alongside us, we're gonna absolutely crush it.